Hello, professor and classmates. This is the presentation for how to teach pronunciation. First, we have pronunciation issues. With pronunciation, most of English language teachers prioritize the study of grammar or vocabulary. They use predictive skill activities to get students to become agile in listening and reading. One of the reasons teachers would rather not to focus on pronunciation is because of they feeling nervous of dealing with sounds and intonation. But it is important to remember that pronunciation teaching not only makes students aware of different sounds and sound features, but also can highly improve their speaking. Pronunciation is one area of teaching which is often neglected. This is evident in the way that pronunciation is treated in most course books. Well, there are a number of reasons for these issues. First, many aspects of pronunciation are difficult to teach, or at least that is the perception. Secondly, unlike a grammatical or functional area of language, it can be quite difficult to build a lesson around a pronunciation point, and therefore such points are added to a unit in a course book or a lesson in the class. Thirdly, teachers often feel underprepared to teach pronunciation, and many seem to struggle to learn the phonemic alphabet. Some language groups may have particular intonation or stress patterns in phrases or sentences, which sounds strange when replicated in English. And also, different sounds can be difficult to many learners, but not everything is just difficulties. Pronunciation will not only benefit their own production, but also their understanding of spoken language.
Problems. There are three particular problems that occur in pronunciation, teaching, and learning. What students can hear. Some students have an enormous difficulty hearing pronunciation features, which we want them to produce. Normally, many speakers of different first languages have issues with different sounds. For instance, for Spanish speakers, it is very hard to distinguish between B and V. They will find it almost impossible to produce the two different phonemes. There are solutions regarding this problem. First, as teachers, we can show the students how sounds are made through demonstration, diagrams, and also we can draw the sounds every time they appear on a recording or in their own conversations. By doing these kind of exercises, we little by little train the students' ears. When they can hear correctly, they can speak correctly as well. What the students can say. Learning a foreign language usually presents us with the problem of physical difficulties in order to make a sound using particular parts of the mouth, uvula, or nasal cavity. To solve this problem, we need to be able to show and explain exactly where sounds are produced. The students should be able to answer questions like, where is the tongue in relation to the teeth? Or, what is the shape of the lips when you produce a certain vowel? The intonation problem. The most complex area of pronunciation is intonation. Even for some of us and our teachers, find it extremely difficult to identify the different patterns of raising and falling tones. One of our tasks is to give students opportunities to recognize moods and intentions like surprised, bored, or enthusiastic, either on an audio track or through the way we model them. Also, we can get the students to imitate the way these moods are articulated. The more aware they are, the greater the chance that their own clarity will rise. Phonemic symbols, to use or not to use. It is perfectly possible to work on sounds of English without ever using any phonemic symbols. Nevertheless, since English is bearable for many students by an apparent lack of sound and spelling correspondence, it makes sense for them to be aware of the different phonemes. Another advantage is the following. If the students know how to read such symbols, they can know how the word is said, even without having to hear it. As a teachers, we can use the symbols for pronunciation tasks and games.
When to teach pronunciation. Teachers have to decide when to include pronunciation teaching in the lessons taking into account the sequence. Some alternatives can be whole lessons. It's when the teacher devotes the whole lesson to pronunciation. Making pronunciation the main focus of a lesson does not mean that every minute of that lesson has to be spent on pronunciation work. They can work on connected speech, concentrating on stress. Sometimes students may also listen to a longer recording, working on listening skills before moving to pronunciation. Discrete slots. When a teacher inserts short separate bits of pronunciation work into lesson sequence. Over the week, they work on all individual phonemes. These separate intonation slots can be extremely useful and provide a change of pace and activity during the lesson that the students might enjoy. Integrated phases. It's when the teacher gets students to focus on pronunciation issues as a part of a lesson. For example, when students listen to a recording, one of the things which the professor do is to draw their attention to pronunciation features on the recording. Opportunistic teaching. It's when teachers change their original plan when lesson realities makes this inevitable. They teach vocabulary grammar just because it has come up. Helping individual students. Teachers work with the whole class when organizing pronunciation teaching classes. Pronunciation is an extremely personal matter. However, different students have different problems, different needs, and different attitudes to the subject. When working with phonemes, the teacher must get the students to identify their own pronunciation difficulties rather than telling them. The teacher will ask each student what words they found easy and which words they found difficult. Examples of pronouncing teaching. Teachers need to focus in the sounds that students are having difficulties with. Word and phrase, sentence stress, and intonation. Also, students will need help with connected speech for fluency and with the correspondence.
Working with sounds. One of the easiest ways when teaching pronunciation is to teach with similar sounds. This will allow the student to be able to identify the sound with respect to the spelling patterns. It will also allow you to differentiate between two very similar English sounds. For example, the sound sh and the sound ch. Even though they are very similar, they have a small difference that is noticeable when pronouncing words such as washing or watching, and that makes people differentiate one from the other. When students are able to understand and use these sounds well, the teacher can continue teaching other sounds. But if the students have some problems with the use of the sounds, the teacher can carry out activities in which the students can review the sounds by listening to them again, reading aloud texts that contain the two sounds, or even showing diagrams where they can see the position of the tongue when pronouncing each sound. Another very good option is to use the phonemic chart. As mentioned in the reading, teachers can use this chart to carry out activities such as the game of bingo. The teacher will say each of the sounds and the students must identify which sound was said. After that, the students must give an example of a word that contains that sound. Working with stress. Stress is of great importance both in words, phrases, or sentences, because it can make you change the meaning of a sentence or because you want to emphasize a specific point. Another way to make stress of our notice is by emphasizing the words or syllables that don't carry stress and that are pronounced with the famous sound or phoneme schwa. An easy way to show students where syllable stress is placed is to use circles, squares, etc. under the accent syllable. And for sentence, it is always good to mark the word that you want to emphasize so that when reading or saying the phrase or sentence, the stress goes on that word.
With intonation. One simple word can have so many meanings with the right intonation. With this, it's supposed that the students will be able to grasp and understand all of those intonations. And also, they will be able to use all of them while they are while they are while they know what they are exactly trying to say. It's recommended to use narrows to represent how the tone of voice is going. It can go up, it can fall, depending of what you're exactly trying to say. In this picture we have an example with the word yes. One simple word has so many meanings. The first one, the 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 narrow is going from left to right, and the meaning is something neutral. Is like you're not exactly interested in what they're saying. So if we pay attention, we can know what the people are saying with those little words. Sounds and spelling. When a professor wants that the student know and recognize a sound, the best way to teach it is with simple words. So the students will be able to remember and know in which case they need to use this sound. We can see in the example that there are short words next to the sound that they're trying to represent. Connected speech and fluency. We all know that it's different to know how to pronounce a word when it's alone than when we are trying to say a full sentence or we are trying to say a speech. So with this, the students are supposed to know how to keep pronouncing the same in the good way while they are doing a whole speech. Like they are going to keep practicing and practicing so they won't lose the speech and the fluency.